Hi, welcome to Lesson 1, and today we are going to be learning some basics about AutoCAD and getting started. Basic line inputs, changing the environment, downloading files, and all that. And getting it rolling. The instructions that were posted are right here. This is what we're working off of today and working through these. First thing to do is to look at where we're saving files and how we're creating that and saving those files. There's I guess a good thing within Valpo on the campus is that you all have an H drive that is your personal, I guess, computer folder or drive in which you can save anything that you want, and it'll stay saved there, and you can access it from any other computer on the campus, or if you have a VPN, you can access it from home and get to your files. And it's kind of a nice location to save things that you can get to from any computer. So in the computer lab, for example, if you're on campus, you can come in and you can sit down at any computer in the lab and you can get to your H drive and pull up your files, and they'll be right there. And you don't have to use a flash drive. You don't have to really get back on the same computer you're on before. They're all going to be right there through that. How do you find that? If you come over here to the drive folder for this, it usually looks like this when you start off. I'm running Windows 11, so it may look a little bit differently than your computer, but pretty similar. If you scroll down over here in the tree, in the directory tree over here, if you come down to this PC, right now it's going to have a listing of all of the folders, all the files that are on different drives. And here's the H drive. So you look for the H and then the little colon. That's your H drive. If I go to that, these are my personal files, or the files I use and want to have access to anywhere on campus. So I'll drop files in here if I want to go upstairs and use one of the lectern computers on it. I've already got a folder called CE151, but if you don't have one, you should create one. And you can just do that by coming over here and clicking this, and you can click folder. And I've already got one, so we won't worry about that. We come into 151. We also name a lesson for it, a lesson folder. I don't have a lesson 1 folder yet, so I'll make that and add a title for it. Enter pops in, and there's my lesson 1 folder. It's blank right now. I don't have any file in it. Again, this H drive you can get to from any computer on campus. It'll save your files. Any file that's in there gets saved. And if you were to save to the more usual Windows locations, like desktop or documents or my documents or my files, there's different names for things that they use in that. Those aren't going to be saved because those are if you're in the lab, those won't be saved because those are on the C drive, and when you log off of any of the computers in the labs, it automatically erases all the files that were added by users so that the next user doesn't have somebody else's files on it. And so that's why you want to use the H drive. If you're on campus and using one of the lab computers on campus, you'll want to save these in the H drive from that. So if you have your personal computer, if you have your own laptop, you don't have to worry about it. Sure, you can save it on there and it'll be fine. No one's going to mess with it. But in the lab, you're going to want to use your H drive to save your files. And so we created a folder here. Here's an example of how to download the file from our lesson on Canvas into our local drive, into your H drive. So we'll be doing this every week. I'll give you sample files. You download them, you'll modify them, you'll draw things in them, you'll resave them, and then you'll upload them back into Canvas at the end to submit your homework or your in-class assignments. So you just pulled up our class Canvas page. If we do lesson 1, let's say we want to do what we're going to do in class today. We're going to do the sample, and so we'll click on that. So that's a file, same with PDF, all of that. It'll show up here. It doesn't display it because Canvas isn't smart enough to display a DWG file. It probably takes too much power anyway to do that. And so you just click on it once and that'll download it. And you can see it pops up over here. I've done it a couple more times here already to practice, so I'm on version 4 of this, but either way you'll see it in the download pages as if you're using Chrome. All right, for that, if you pull up your Windows Explorer, you'll get a menu like this. And it usually starts out on desktop or it starts out in home. Either one, doesn't really matter. Do that. If you click on downloads, you'll see it there. And so I tried it twice today and have downloaded it.
through that. And I'm going to put this into my H drive. And so if I scroll down here, just like we were talking about earlier, you should have an H drive. I can click on that. Pops up. Here's my H drive. I have a lot of folders in mine because I've been around a while. Through that, if I want to put it in, so I made a folder for CE 151. Right. Through there, I made another folder for Lesson 1. There's CE 151. And I've already downloaded it before, but now if I wanted to grab it, I can come up here to this downloads thing and just grab it. And it disappears, of course, but it'll pop back up. There it is. And I drop it in. Do that. And now it's there. And now that it's in my H drive, I can double click it to open it, or I can rename it. And so all the files you download to work on in class, you'll end up renaming those with your last name and then, lesson number or whatever. It's either then ICA or homework. And then you'll upload those back into onto Canvas when you're done with that. So that's how to download those and get those into your H drive. As I just mentioned, if you don't put this in the H drive, your personal folder on the campus system, and then when you log out of those computers in CE151, or sorry, it's GEM 150. If you log out of the computers in the lab, it'll erase them, so you'll lose it. So don't save it on the desktop. Make sure you know where it is. Make sure you drop it into the H drive first, and then open that file from the H drive. Don't open it from the downloads because that'll get erased when you log out of that computer. On there. Now, if you're doing this on your own personal laptop at home or back in your dorm room, it won't erase. But if you're on one of the campus machines, they wipe out when you log off. It wipes out all the user files. So your downloads, anything on your desktop will disappear. Things in your H drive are permanent though, and you'll be able to keep those. That's why we want you to store everything over there until you have a chance to upload it back into Canvas. Now I've downloaded the file. Now I have my file I'm ready to work on through here, and we can get running. And so now you can try double clicking it, and your computer may be set up right to automatically open AutoCAD. Some of the computers have this file linked to other programs, and it won't work right. Another way to do it is if we open AutoCAD first, which is, I guess, probably the preferable way to do it. Once it's open, now you come up here to this little open folder icon. Click it open, and you can come in and you can find it. And this one's looking in lesson 1. I can come here to my H drive, CE151, lesson 1. There it is. I can click it open from there and go. I already have it open, so I'm not going to open it again. That's maybe the more sure way of getting it open. Once we have it in and opened up, today's the first thing is to get used to driving around in AutoCAD. One of the ways is if you use your middle mouse wheel and scroll it in and out, it will zoom in and out, and it zooms in and out referencing from wherever your cursor is, wherever these crosshairs are, that's where it's going to be centered at. So it'll zoom in and out from there. If I hold down the middle button and move it around, then it does panning. And then it'll move from side to side. And so you can kind of drive around inside your file and see what's in there through that. So we use those all the time to navigate around inside of our drawing. Another thing to do is if I don't see anything on my screen, I'm wondering, oh my gosh, the program is blank. One way to check is if you do zoom extents, hit Z, hit enter. And then down here, it's giving you some options, and you're going to do extents, or type in E and hit enter again. Zoom extents, which is it will zoom out until it includes every drawing element in your file and shows everything to you at once. So if it looks like the file is blank and you're not sure, or you lost where you were drawing things, you can do zoom extents, and it'll bring up everything that you've drawn and include it in the window. So I use that a lot. That's a very common command. I use it quite often. If text or circles or things are starting to look blurry and it looks weird, there's another command that we use all the time called regen, R-E-G-E-N, and I just type it in and hit enter, and that regenerates the entire drawing. And what that does is it literally redraws every element in it, every vector file, every vector line it's using inside the program. It redraws everything, and it'll just make it a lot crisper. There's a lesson coming up that we're going to use regen about every third command
because it's as we zoom in and change things and things look weirder, we'll type in regen and it smooths things out and makes them all prettier from that. So those are commands we use very frequently. We're supposed to draw some lines, supposed to do some sample line drawing. So I just picked up one up here and picked up line, and I'm drawing lines. And if I hit right click, I get this menu, and then I click enter, and that ends my line. Or I can draw a line, click, 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 click the mouse, left button, and when I'm done, I hit the enter on the keyboard, and it's done. Or I can draw lines and hit spacebar, and it's done. In AutoCAD, the spacebar and the enter key are the same. And so every time you hit the spacebar, it's just like you hit enter key for any command you're running. I guess not if you're typing outside of AutoCAD, but within AutoCAD, the spacebar is equivalent to the enter key. Originally, we did a lot of text input for commands, and the spacebar was easier to find than the enter key, I guess. Easier to hit with your thumb as you're going along. When we do commands, so that was the line command, that was drawing lines. Almost all commands within AutoCAD have both a text version, so I could type in line, L-I-N-E, on my keyboard, hit enter, and I can start a command, start that command until I'm done. Or I can come up here and I can find the button for it on the toolbar and click that and use the toolbar instead. So you can get to the commands either way. If you know what the command name is, you can type it in. If you don't, you can come up and look for it. And these are context-themed toolbars up here on the ribbon through there. So here's all the modify commands. Here's all the basic drawing commands. And so if you kind of know what area your command should be in, you can just poke around in here until, oh yeah, that looks like what I want to do. I want to do a fillet. And then use that command from there. Again, so two ways to get to it. Another command that we use a lot of is undo. And undo in AutoCAD, you can type in U and hit enter or the space bar, and it will undo things. So that's a quick way to do it. Control Z, like any other Windows computer, will also undo things. Or there's an undo button up here at the very top, the back arrow to the left, and undoes things. And then here is redo. You can click the redo button and it puts things back in for you. So you have two options there. If you want to get rid of something, you can just click on it. It highlights here, we call these grips. Once you're on these grips, you can move things around. Click on, move it around, click to end it. Or click the middle one and drag the whole thing over. If you want to delete it, first you highlight it, and now you have the grips turned on, the little blue boxes, those are grips. And you just hit the delete key, and it's gone. You can just erase it that way. Another thing that we use sometimes is a command called options. That one we type in, hit spacebar or the enter, and this will give you different, like option says, these are the program's options. And so some programs call them preferences, user preferences. AutoCAD calls them options. The first menu that comes up are all the file locations. And so if you want to dig into it and change where you're saving your files to, just FYI, AutoCAD auto saves every 15 minutes, or should be set up to auto save every 15 minutes. So if you're doing a lot of work and all of a sudden it crashes and you think you lost your entire file, you probably only lost 15 minutes. And if that happens in class, I can show you where to find the backup files for it. Display changes how things look and what you're looking at through there. The default for AutoCAD is to have this gray background when you're in 2D drawing model mode. I don't like the gray background. I think it's a little dirty looking. I prefer to have a crisper black background. In fact, colors show up better with the black background. So I go over here to display options, display, come over here to Windows elements, and then colors. And this is where we can change this. We're in 2D model space. That's where we are right now. Uniform background. I'm going to change that to be black and hit apply and close. Maybe you saw the difference there. So now we've got a pure black background, which I think is easier to see. It's easier on my eyes. Don't lose lines into it as much as I do otherwise. Another thing I like to change is under user preferences. Over here on the top tab, let's come over here to user preferences, is right-click customization. Right now, if I'm doing a line command and I right click, I'll get a little menu. It's giving me an error message now because I'm in this options. I'm going to make the right click act like the enter button on the keyboard. Close, okay. And so now if I'm doing line, and then I hit the right mouse button, it just ends it. Lines all over the place, right mouse key, and I'm done. So I think that's a lot faster than getting a little menu up there, and then I can just use the mouse to draw everything. And that's, I think, more well-seasoned users of AutoCAD like their mouse set up that way. I'm not sure why they started using the menu there, but let's say the older CAD techs I know, that's how they have it set up. So that's just some optimizations or just some options you can change on this to personalize your Outlook in it. For today's lab, we actually have some work we're supposed to do, and so that gets us through this first part here. We've set up the files, we've got our H drive going, we have a folder on our H drive to drop our files into. Each week you'll make a new lesson folder and you can keep your files in there and keep them all organized. All right, through that. And here's, we're working through different options, and so we've already gone through drawing some lines. All right, from that, let me show you some more buttons here. And we've got, we're in model space, we're going to stay in there. And then we've also got ortho mode. And so if I turn on ortho mode and now I draw lines, now I cannot draw anything over here. I can't draw angles. I could snap to something, I guess, but I can only draw right angles. And that's what ortho mode is. It makes everything ortho rectangular, basically 90-degree angles from one thing to another. I can turn it off and I can complete my line, and I could do other options on that. I've also got grid mode, and so I can turn a little grid on here in the background. If you're, I guess, if this file is of high enough quality, you'll be able to see that grid through there. And then I can also turn on snap, which is this button next to it. And now if I try to draw a line, I can only snap to points. And the grid usually lines up with what your snap settings are. I think there's probably a way to make it not be true. But if you know you want to do everything to an exact units, set of exact units, you can use ortho mode, snap mode with the grids, and I guess you could see it. I don't know, honestly, I don't know anybody who uses ortho mode and snap mode turned on at the same time. So not in civil engineering. Our stuff rarely lines up perfectly like this on an exact grid through there. And we are often dealing in fractions of feet or inches and whatever we're working on. So it's not a very common thing that we're going to need to use through there. It does exist. Maybe mechanicals use it more. I think some of the homework assignments maybe it would be helpful to turn it on, but not that much. So, like I say, very rare are you going to see that on. In fact, I've never seen anybody in AutoCAD working in a civil and environmental area that use either one of those options. They're there. I think the book had you use them later on, but we're not going to use them through that. One other thing we are going to use is dynamic mode, and so dynamic mode, turn this down here in this button. If you don't see this on your screen, come over here to the lower right corner, click this. And this is where you can turn on all these options. All right, through here, I can turn on a button for transparency. I can turn on a button for selection filtering, so forth and so on. You need to make sure your dynamic input button is turned on. It's up here on the right side, about a quarter of the way down, maybe 10% of the way down. And we turn that on, and when it's on, you'll have this button. If that's not on, you don't have that button. Let me just click and that goes there. And that's, you're going to use this in today's assignment. So you can have that now through there. Let's see, where are we in our instructions? I think that's pretty good. I think we've got everything through that. Zoom extents, we've talked about that. All right, from that, now we're going to make a new file, and we're going to give it our last name, then lab11. And so I'm going to come up here. Here's the new file button next to the colored C for auto, or this is for Civil 3D. So do that, and it's doing a new drawing. And here's the names of the drawings I have open. Here's my original sample one, and I can click over here in this menu bar, and now I'm in drawing one. And that's not really the name I want to call it, so I'm going to right click, go to save as, And I am supposed to name it uh, that name right there, Grossman Lab 11. Save. I'm gonna overwrite one. Yep. And now this will change, and now that's my new name from that. And now what's the instructions? Let's go to back to the instructions we've got here. We are supposed to go to page 52 and then 62 and do these instructions that were in the book. And if you don't have your books, some people don't have them the first day, so I copied those instructions and threw them back here in the end of the instructions. And we'll work through these now real carefully, or start off with, at least to give you some practice to start with. I'm gonna move them off the screen so I can read them to the side and not be in my way. So I'm gonna start the line command like this, and first off we are gonna do, yep, we don't want dynamic on, dynamic is off, and we are gonna do pick. So it wants us to pick locations, and it says specify the first point on this, and I'm going to specify my first point as 1, 1, and I'm going to zoom up, scroll out so I can see, there it is, because I was not in that area to start with, so there we go. So there's 1, 1, and now I'm going to go to 3, 1, so that's the unit. It's too long, and I'm using the scroll wheel to scroll in and out and zoom, so you can see how. And that command is over, so I can hit the space bar and it ends it. So I've got a line that's too long and it's all horizontal. All right, from that. Next I'm supposed to draw a vertical line, so I'll start my vertical line. I'm supposed to start at 4, 1. All right, from that, and now I want to go to 4, 3, and there we go. And escape. Now I've got a vertical line through there. And next up, we start at 5, 1. And now I'm supposed to do a diagonal line to 7, 3, like that. And then finally I'm supposed to do a circle. So here's the circle button, circle command. And I click that. And where do I want to start my circle? And I want to start my circle at 9, 2. And I want a radius. It wants to do diameter, but I want to do radius. So I'm going to type in R for radius. Oh, sorry. It's doing radius. I could switch to diameter. Oh, it was already set right. And I want my radius to be, that was wrong. I want my radius to be 1. And so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to pick 9, 2. And I want the radius to be 1. There it is. And so those are my first shapes to come through. Now we're supposed to turn on dynamic input, so now we're going to turn on dynamic input mode, and then the next instructions are I'm going to start my first line at 1, 4. So it's going to be up above the others. All right, so now I've got 1, 4, and so now the question is, how do I draw this? So first I did 1, 4. Now I'm going to do 2. So dynamically I want to come over 2 and back up here. I want to do 2, 0, and that will give me the in the instructions they're using tab. I just use the comma. The comma is easier, and that means from this point I came over 2 horizontal and 0 vertical. So that's the dynamic part of it. It's not the actual coordinates of this location. The second point, it is because those coordinates are right there. They are 3, 4. That would be the coordinates of it, but by using dynamic inputs, whatever point I started at, I came over 2 and up or down 0. So that's the dynamic part of it is that it starts from your last known position, right, from that. So now I want to do a vertical line, right, and now I'm going to do 4, 4. It says to start it. And then I want to come and do 2 and then go up an angle of 90. So I can do 2, back up. Start over. So we're going to start at 4, 4. And now I'm going to do 2, and it says tab. And now you can see using the tab, now I've got the angle. I can type in 90. Why doesn't it like that? There, it took it that time. And so that should have drawn a unit a line that's 2 units long and at 90 degrees. And it eventually did. Took me a second. All right, from that. And so then let's do another line, and this one we're starting at 5, 4. So we're right there, and now we are going to go at a distance of 2.8284. And then we are in a tab, and then I should type in 45. And that time it worked first time off. Good. See there. And so that was the distance. That's the length of this, the hypotenuse of say, a right triangle, if I had it there, 2.824, 2.8284, something like that. And then I did a 45-degree angle, and so that gave me that line. And then we can do the same thing with the circle. Start with the circle, and this one starts at 9, 5. Yep. And then we're just going to do 1 for that. So that one wasn't much different from there. That's the difference between absolute coordinate entry and then doing a dynamic coordinate entry. And then they're going to have you do it one more time, turning this off, and you'll just be typing in the coordinate points of each of those points. And it's just x, y for the input. So I'll let you guys run through that. I think that should be a good enough start out on that. That brings us through all those instructions. That brings us through there. You do one more set of instructions to make a new file, and then save those there. Do that. That's I think the main thing. Down here we've got these important commands. Don't forget these. The escape gets you out of any command that you're in. If you want to get out of it, is escape bar. Zoom extents is Z space bar E. That's how I do it, at least. Or you can do Enter E. Undo using the letter U. Regen, or be able to type options to make any changes to your files from that. The homework, you'll be drawing these shapes, and just to let you know, like in this shape, let me zoom in here a little. In this shape, all right, these are all the dimensions. That's just to help you know what the coordinates are, how far you need to move, and then snap the next, and come around. This is in the end, all I need to see is this outline of the shape. I don't want to see the dimensions. Those are just there for your help. You just need to do the outline of the shape. And like if we scroll down here, this is the outline of the shape that we're looking for. The dimensions are just there as a guide to help you start drawing and start working through. And don't worry about, I wouldn't worry too much about the start and the discontinue point. Just try to draw that shape using the commands that we've used, either in dynamic mode or absolute mode, or however you want to do it to get those shapes in the end through that. And that should be enough to get started here in lesson 1. Next week, obviously things will progress and we'll start some new commands as we go through. Thanks.